Hey there, good afternoon, everybody. It is Coach Robin, and I am live. It is time for another segment of Let's Talk Church. Yes, Let's Talk Church. So go ahead and invite your followers to join the broadcast. Let me get my computer so I can follow you guys and read the comments and see what everybody is saying about this hot topic. All right, let's see here. Let me put this on mute. Good. All righty. Thank you guys for hanging out with me on today. All right, let's do that. All right, good. Hey, Carrie, glad to see you on this morning hanging out with your girl. It's been a minute. Glad to see you. Hey, Everett, glad to see you on, son. Glad to have you hanging out with me on today as well. I'm going to give you a second. Please share the broadcast that we are live. We got some good stuff that we are talking about on today. Now, while we're waiting on more folks to join us, I wanted to share that as we wrap up the end of the year, that my event planners profit center is live. That is my online academy for event planners. If you love event planning, maybe you're already doing it for free as a hobby, just something you've even been considering doing. I want to invite you to check out my event planners profit center. It's really, really simple. If you want to get more information about it, all you have to do, of course, is number one, make sure that you're on my email list. But then number two, you can send me an email. I put my email address up there for you on the broadcast. I recently did a live boot camp. See my boot camp bag here. We had such a great time. Faith-based event planners boot camp. Yes, this event was amazing. Truly want to thank everybody that came. Of course, I'll be hosting it again next year. So get ready. It's going to be in September next year. But stay connected to me and you will find out more about it. Speaking of staying connected to me, I want to invite you to join my email list. It's really simple to do. If you've not already done it, just text my last name, which is WARE, to the number 22828, as you see on your screen. Those of you that are watching me live, you can see it on my screen. And of course, those of you that are watching on my YouTube channel, thank you guys for hanging out with me as well. And you as well can join my email list. Speaking of YouTube, you guys, I shared with you a few videos ago that I am now making sure that I put up the information that I share with you all on my YouTube channel. So make sure that you are on it. Yes. So you can, of course, just jump over to YouTube, type in Robin and Ware, and you will find my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe. Click that little bell so that you will get the notification that tells you when I add new content or even when I go live. I'm going to go live there too sometimes. So don't worry about it. Don't panic. I am looking forward to meeting or having you guys meet me over there on YouTube. All right. So again, thank you, everybody. I see you joining. Say hi to your girl. Let me know that you are on. I'm looking forward to having a really good conversation with you all about this hot topic. I tell you, going to be talking about, should John Gray have spoken with Larry Reid live? So Larry Reid Live, of course, is an online entertainment show, as he likes to say, where he talks about what's going on in not just the church world, but the secular side, the entire entertainment spectrum. But of course, I'm a church girl, so I focus on faith-based things. So I'm going to be talking about it from a faith-based perspective. All right, you guys? So I see you guys doing some watch parties. I thank you for that as well. Make sure that you're sharing the broadcast. Make sure you even like the Ware Agency so that I know that you enjoy hanging out with me. Now, I am ready to just jump into this. Now, you all know that I have been sharing a series of trainings about crisis management. In fact, I even had the opportunity to share with a client recently what they should do. They had a sticky situation come up and what they should do as far as making it public. And I'm going to share with you what I shared with them. for the most part, regardless of what happens, you have the right to control the narrative of what's shared. Oftentimes in ministry, what we do is we decide that we're going to sweep it up under the rug, we're going to wait for it to go away, or we're going to be in denial. We're going to bury our head in the sand and act like no one knows but us, which couldn't be further from the truth. All right? I'm telling you that whatever the secret is that you think you have, that the odds are much greater that people are aware of it, or at least more than you think are aware of it. All right. So I see you guys. Thank you so much. I see you over here on Facebook. Thank you. So, and feel free, go ahead. You can, I'm going to add your comments to my Facebook chat over here so that I can share them with the audience. So if you've got some questions, go ahead and you can prepare them. There you go. I see you, T. Marie. Good, good, good. She says, say that we control the narrative. I just told a client that last night. Absolutely. And let me say this, you guys, that because of social media and the good old World Wide Web, it's not as simple as, well, I can just tell my trustees or my board of advisors and I'm good. Absolutely not, because what happens, the World Wide Web has given everyone the opportunity to create their own platform. And everyone's always looking for content. Even me, I'm using this as a springboard for content, right? Or I'm using this content as a springboard for my platform. So of course, I'm always, pro faith-based. So I can tell you I'm personal friends with John Gray and his beautiful wife, Aventer. I know probably 90% of the people that a lot of the bloggers are talking about. And so it always saddens me when I hear those stories, not because of just the stories themselves. Why? Because we're all human. Life happens to all of us. I would challenge you to check your past. I'm sure there's some things that you've done in your past that you wouldn't want shared. And so whether it's your past or it's your current, we all go through, we all make decisions that we sometimes, regret. And so, how would you want that information handled? Well, that's why your girl is here. I am going to help you with the crisis management side of it. So again, my previous broadcast, I shared that you get to decide who you have to share your truth with. All right? And I stand by that. You get to decide who you have to share your truth with. But in doing that, you also get to decide how much of the truth you share. Just follow me. I'm not suggesting that you lie, that you twist the story, that you sweeten it. Not at all. I am suggesting that, again, you get to decide how much of it you share. It is absolutely okay to say, listen, something has happened, whatever the XYZ is, something has happened. We're working through it and we appreciate your prayers. That's the truth. Something has happened. It is the truth that you're working through it. And it is the truth, number 3, that you appreciate their prayers. That may be the extent of what you have to share. Now, when situations, the more public they are, then typically the larger the audience is you're going to have to share your truth with. And so your statement can still be short, sweet, and to the point. You just might have to use different platforms to spread it. So for instance, versus just if you're a pastor making that statement across the pulpit, we're going through some things, my spouse and I are going through some things, or, there's a situation that happened that involved one of our kids, or, one of our youth department members, or one of our leaders, and we're dealing with it. We just ask you to keep us in your prayers. We'll share more information as needed. And I'm asking you to please diffuse, right? Any other comments. If people are coming to you, just ask them at this time. They've asked us for our prayers and not our comments. It's easy, right? But depending on how public it is, in making a statement like that from the pulpit is one thing. But you also might need to say that via a press release that is then posted online. All right? It could be posted on your website, and it could be posted on your social media pages. Now, make sure that it is posted on your church social media pages. I'm sorry, let me move my chair up a little bit. Okay. Make sure it's posted on your church's social media pages. Don't start the post from the pastor's page. Don't start the post from your lead social media person's page. It should come from the church's social media page. That validates it. All right. That lessens the degree of skepticism of people, right? It was posted on your church page, versus your personal page. So then people don't have to wonder, is this really true? Is this valid? Is this really what the ministry is saying? All right. Let me see. I got some questions coming. All right. I'm gonna address your questions. I told you I would. Excuse me. Alphaeus, yes, glad to see you on. Let me share your comment. He says, I'm always concerned about the next generation in sagas like this. What are they thinking? How are they processing the drama? Absolutely. And that's why it's important that you speak to the situation. Again, the more public it is, the more you have to speak to it. Now, old school was we would share it with our trustees or our board of advisors. But again, because of social media, things spread. People put out information. And what's really sad is when the truth is never put out because, some leaders are arrogant and they feel like they don't owe an explanation to anyone. But it's not about them, right? It is about the totality of the weight of that thing on the ministry. When they took on becoming the pastor, being a leader like that, you signed up to be held accountable by the people. And so you can't go in a pulpit and chastise people through weekly sermons. And not all sermons are about chastisement, but there are some that are a lot about chastisement. But you can't do that and then have a situation and decide you're going to fold your arms and bury your head in the sand and not say anything. So, deciding who you're going to share what with is your right. But I do advise you to seek counsel. What you're thinking may be right. It may not be right. But if all you're bouncing it off of is your amen corner, then most likely they're just going to support whatever you say because they're your amen corner. You need some people, you need the opinions of people that are not necessarily in your amen corner. That's why your board needs to be made up of people that aren't just members of your church. Your board doesn't have to just be members of your church. You need some business people. You need some people that are spiritual, but you need some people that are, straight shooters. You need a counselor, for goodness sake. You need a counselor, someone that's going to say, listen, this is not healthy. Even though it might be right, it's not healthy. And it is going to cause more harm than good. As Alphaeus was saying, he's concerned about the next generation, how this is going to impact them. All right, so let's keep going. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Share the broadcast. Appreciate it. So, and I really meant to share this with Larry Reid, you guys. Somebody tag him at Larry Reid Live. Um, so depending on what the degree of how severe the situation is that you're dealing with, again, you get to decide what levels of people that you share it with and what degree of information that you get to share. Well, in the Pastor John Gray case, and as I shared, I want to be fully transparent. I'm friends with them. I love them dearly. And so, though I'm not biased, I mean, what I'm sharing is what I would share with anyone. But for those of you that know that I know them, I'm just confirming that I do. All right. So, the Pastor John Gray situation, as well as some of the other situations that Larry Reid has been talking about. And even before Larry Reid, there was obnoxious. And he was truly that obnoxious. The one thing I do appreciate about Larry Reid is that though he's got humor and he says this is an entertainment show, he does at least try to hear both sides. He doesn't just put mess out there. He does try to do his homework. He does try to, he's got a journalism angle. He comes from a journalistic point of view, right? Whereas some of the other bloggers, they were just in it for the drama and the mess and even the extortion. So let's talk about that for just a tiny second. That is absolutely true. Obnoxious. I don't have personal experience with other people, but those of you that have followed me throughout the years, you know that I've had a situation where I had to deal with obnoxious. And so for a client. And obnoxious does threaten people. He does come at, I'm going to expose you. That's his thing, right? And so he also will ask people for payment to not expose them. And that is called extortion, and that is illegal. And so I never um, am going to advise somebody to agree to be extorted. So you have to decide that the secret that someone like an obnoxious has, is it worth what it will cost you? Is it worth what it will cost you to pay him versus what it will cost you to tell the truth? And we all know that as believers, that as Christians, that it is our responsibility to tell the truth, even when it hurts. So part of our faith walk is making sure that our walk is witness worthy, that we can tell people, we're living for Christ. And so we're doing our best to do that. And it's easy, I know emotionally it's very difficult to want to tell the truth when, you've been doing something that's deceitful or that, is embarrassing. And that's why you need to seek counsel to kind of help walk you through those steps. There's wisdom in counsel. And I would tell someone that has something embarrassing or very hurtful that they're about to be outed for, to get ahead of it, to get in front of it, so that you can tell it your own way. You can tell it to those that mean something to you. Because the worst thing, the last thing you want to have happen is that they find out something so hurtful and harmful through a blog. So, you have to get on the phone and you have to call them and you have to talk through what's happened. You have to prepare a statement. You have to meet with your board. You have to do whatever it takes so that you can forewarn them. Because I'm going to tell you, though they're still going to be hurt, they're going to be hurt even more if they don't find out from you. So, if you're being extorted, you have a situation with an obnoxious or whatever, go to the police. Tell those that are closest to you, again, bring them in the loop. let them know what's happening. But you have an attorney, you tell the police, you let the law deal with that type of individual. All right. So I just wanted to put a pin there to talk about that. All right. All right. I see you. Good stuff. So when you get a call from a journalist, and I've had this happen, when you get a call from a journalist that says, we've been made aware of a situation about your church or XYZ, then all you have to do is make a statement. Now, I know some people will say, well, it's none of their business and da 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 da. But I'm telling you, the truth always prevails. Now, do you have to pour out the A to Z of the story to that journalist or blogger? Absolutely not. What you need to do is tell them that you will prepare a statement. Now, I'm speaking of a situation that is true, that might be embarrassing, that might hurt people. Now, if they're, calling you because you got, 8 unpaid parking tickets and, you did it you got them on the church van, do you need to respond to that? Listen, all you need to tell them in that case is, if you didn't know about it, thank you for making us aware of it. We'll check into it. I mean, you don't need to go into the whole story about the church van and who was driving it and how it got ticked. You don't need to do all that. I'm talking about, more serious matters. So I had a client call me. The journalist had reached out to them about an embarrassing situation about a couple in their church. It wasn't about the pastor, but it was about a couple in their church, and it was very public. And so they wanted a statement from the pastor because this couple was very was very active in that church. And so what I advised them to do was to sit down with that couple and come up with a response. Because it's important that though it's a public situation, that parishioner still knows that you support them, you've got their back, and that you're covering them, and that you want to do things in love. And so you're not just going to shoot off some sort of response, particularly if it's something, in this case, it was an arrest was involved. I can't give you too many details because I don't want you to try to figure out who Robin was helping, right? But an arrest was involved. So, and so it caused for a statement. And so that's what they did. They got with the family. They put together a statement that they were comfortable with, and they shared that with the journalist. And I've had churches where the journalist wants to show up on Sunday, and I've had it go both ways, where they said no outside cameras will be allowed. You can't tell the journalist they can't come to church, but you can tell the journalist that they can't come and bring their cameras to tape. All right. So what's important is that you give them some sort of direction, because you don't want them to just show up at your church with a TV camera and start interviewing your members. And what if your members don't even know about the situation? That's why it's important that you have a relationship with your local news media. Now, depending on the size of your church, that may be something that you have ongoing, or it might just be, a relationship so that you can notify them when your church isn't going to be open because of, inclement weather. So a lot of variables go into that. That's why you need to hire a PR person to kind of help you navigate the waters so that you don't sink or get eaten by sharks. All right. Good. So in this case with Pastor John Gray and others that, have been a part of these stories, the unfortunate thing is, because they want ratings, and even Larry Reid Live, he wants ratings, he wants viewers, he wants eyes on his broadcast. He makes it salacious. And so a lot of times leaders get in their feelings about the salaciousness of what a Larry Reid does. And if you look at it as that's just, entertainment purposes, it'll help you process better what's happened. So, for instance, with the Pastor John Gray situation, his tagline was something to the effect of, Pastor John Gray and Relentless Church ruined. Like, ruined, of course, that's a strong word. And because we know what ruin means, it immediately made us think, clutch my pearls. Oh my God, what has happened? And it made us tune in. Well, just as with most situations, well, not most, all situations, there's two sides to every story. And I am 100% in agreement that Pastor John Gray, provided a response. Now, did it have to be on Larry Reid Live? Let me say this. Because Larry Reid Live is an entertainment show, I would not have necessarily said that's my first stop for you as far as sharing your story. Pastor John Gray has a large enough platform that he and his wife and, whomever he needed to include could have recorded a video with a trusted source and shared that, and it would have gone viral, and Larry Reid would have gotten it, and he would have dissected it. All right? Because one of the things that Larry Reid said, I've not talked to Pastor John Gray, so I don't know this to be fact, but it's what Larry Reid said on the broadcast because I watched it. He said that he wanted them to come on his show live, but Pastor John Gray said he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to rehash everything. And I agree with that. I agree with that because Larry Reid Live is an entertainment show. And so his audience would have wanted him and pushed him to ask John Gray some salacious questions, to push him to go down the road of the mess. Whereas with John Gray just talking with Larry Reid Live, Larry Reid asked him questions and John answered. And, I don't know how long the conversation was. I don't even know all the questions that were asked, but I want to believe, just from experience, that when you do an interview like that, you're able to control it better. To be live on camera, people would have made judgments about Pastor Gray's actions, his movements, his hands, his, what his wife was doing and where she was looking in the camera and was she looking up, rolling her eyes, to the left, to the right. People just would have torn all that apart. And so I definitely agree that he should have put a response out. Because there are different ways to put a response out, my first recommendation would have been to do it from his own platform and to do it with someone that he trusts, allowing them to interview him. I wouldn't have just had he and his wife. I would have had, someone even like me that would have talked him through the questions to get the answers, because I'm not mean-spirited. I am kingdom-minded, and I know them. And I know them to be good people. I know them to be kingdom people. And so that would have been my focus. And that's what you have to think about, you guys. When you're responding and even when you're watching and viewing these stories, you've got to remember the context in which the stories are produced. Again, Larry Reid is an entertainment show. He's going to produce it from the context of being entertaining. So now there have been some shows where he's done some heartfelt things. Even last night he was kind of talking about a church. I actually thought he kind of shaded the church a little bit, where he was saying, that he wanted to raise money to help make the church nicer, I guess. It's just kind of the way he said it. I kind of sensed a little shadiness in it. But, it's just me, my opinion. But When you have a platform the size of Pastor John Gray, he could have put out his own response, and it would have done what he needed done. Now, because that whole relentless church, the birthing of it was so public, the response had to be so public. So the birthing was public. The transfer of the keys was public. They stream their services. They put out highlight videos. They host worldwide. They have a worldwide stage because of their show on the OWN network. So I'm talking, level 10. Most ministries aren't at level 10 exposure. So that's why I'm saying you've got to have someone kind of help you navigate the waters, because 3 or 4 people in your ear telling you they know about your story does not mean the world knows about your story. So it might not be necessary for you to host a press conference to even issue a press release. It may be just fine for your ministry to make a statement to your church, to do a private video, for your members, for your trustees, or for your board. So you gotta do the homework so that you can figure out like what's best for your church. All right. So here we go. What questions do we have about what I've been sharing? All right. Carrie says, I think the first public statement is very important. Therefore, a publicist is definitely needed. Absolutely, Carrie. On that level 10, it definitely is. Unfortunately, there is a story about a pastor that is, not even just a pastor. I know that there are other pastors, I'm sure, but there are pastors that are going through personal things with their marriages. Their children are, doing things they may not be so proud of. And so you have to decide again, and that's why you do need a publicist. What kind of statement are we going to make? Is it necessary to make it to everyone? Is it just to our inner circle? It really just depends. Every situation is different, but every situation needs to evaluate it. That's what I'm trying to help you understand with this teaching. Every situation needs to be evaluated. And again, don't be afraid to, make your statement and then be done with it. We do not need you to beat a dead horse. You don't. Every time you grab the microphone, you don't need to give an update. Every time, particularly when you do something on that level, there will be other journalists that will call. You don't need to speak to them. You could tell them, I've made one statement. You're welcome to go and get it from XYZ. That's it. You're not going to let this take over your life. You're not going to let this, you're not going to give energy and power to something that was never meant to live. All right? It's supposed to die so that we can get on to the matters at hand and start getting some resolution, start getting some healing, start getting some deliverance even. All right? So that's it. And make sure that and I've said this before in many of my trainings, but make sure your church understands who your authorized voice is. And it does not have to be the pastor. In fact, I don't suggest that it is the pastor. I know a lot of pastors are like, oh my goodness, no, you do not want your pastor out there on live TV talking about, this XYZ situation. You want someone that understands the media and how it works. John Gray, of course, is very savvy. He's media savvy. He's had a television show where he, was sitting in the interviewer seat. So he knows how all of that works. For the pastor that hasn't had that level of experience or even exposure, I don't suggest that you do that. I suggest that you hire a publicist, a PR person, a marketing strategist that can help you put the statement together and even make the statement. All right. No one can force you to speak. So they can't demand that you be the one to talk about it. All right. So put a system in place, put a process in place so that your audience even is comfortable knowing, oh, well, when you see XYZ show up, they're speaking on behalf of the ministry. And you should even talk through that to your church. Hey, listen, we had certain situation happen, but know that we've engaged XYZ agency. They're working with us on it, and we're going to issue a statement, tonight, tomorrow, whenever, and they're going to be speaking on our behalf. It's easy. Simple as that. All right? All right. All right, let me see. Dr. White says, great info. I think people believe PR assistance is too costly. It's affordable depending on your issue and even the size of your platform. Let's talk about that. Great point. You have to think about what is the cost if this goes way left. Your members may leave. Listen, you all know that there was a big situation with a pastor. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to say it or not. Right now, I'm not leaning to say it, but there was a pastor that was involved in a personal relationship with someone, and it didn't end the way the someone wanted it to. And so the someone made a statement on Facebook. Well, the pastor made a very demeaning statement about that person. And let me say this, you guys. We are God's representatives on this earth. You have to always keep that in mind. So I don't care that the fact that you did it from your personal page on Facebook makes you think that won't put a black eye on your church. That couldn't be further than the truth. I'm an AKA, and we just took over a line, and I went to go celebrate this past weekend. And when we finished our ceremony, it's a private ceremony only for sorors, they said, you cannot post these pictures on Facebook. All right? So I feel the same way as it relates to ministry. Even though that pastor probably felt like, well, I didn't make the comment from the church's page, you still made a comment. And so as a result, that person was emotionally wounded and became very hurt. And we know what hurt people do. Hurt people hurt people. And so that person became a lethal weapon. And I know you may be saying, okay, Robin, now you've gone a little bit too far. You're adding drama to it. Listen, go to that church on this Sunday. That church went from thousands to hundreds to what I understand now is tens, like 50, 60 people. And that pastor, after, a year of all of this, finally stepped back and got themselves out of the picture. And I don't know if they're on a sabbatical, if that's what they're calling it, but they're not in the pulpit preaching. All because they didn't believe that the power of Facebook, that a statement made on Facebook by someone that had a lethal weapon could wipe them out. Now, thank God they finally stepped aside, because it would be just sad that one person's actions could totally destroy an entire church. But I'm telling you, people are smart, people are educated, and they're not going to support someone that won't do what they've been teaching others to do. And I always say that to pastors. You can't get in the pulpit and teach about doing right, living right, and then about forgiveness and grace. And then when you have a situation, you won't follow your own advice. You won't follow your own teachings, Because though you may not have lived right, you can repent and ask for forgiveness and then go sit down because you don't want to be a distraction to the ministry. Because there's too many lives at stake. So what if you go sit down for a month, 2 months? I heard somebody say, "Oh my goodness, if that pastor leaves, uh, it the offering is going to go down, and their numbers will go down, and they won't be able to sustain themselves." Well, listen, when church becomes about that one person, we're in trouble. That whole celebrity, status pastor phase, that's out the door. That is out the door. We have to make sure that the only celebrity in the room is Jesus Christ. And any pastor, and I know a lot of pastors that are popular, they do a great job of saying, "Hey, this isn't about me. I just get to be the one to love the people," right? God is using me, but this is all about us. This isn't, the XYZ show. All right. And so that's why it's healthy for pastors to take sabbaticals and to take summer vacations. If you got to take a winter break, whatever, so that people can get used to seeing other people in the pulpit and then beginning to trust their wisdom. Because when you do that, that speaks volumes to your congregation. So even at my church, my pastor's off for the rest of the month of December. And that's one of the things he's done consistently for years. And the church knows it. So we're not shocked when other people mount the pulpit. We're in support because we know that when he's not there, he leaves us in good hands. And you don't want it to be a case where, well, you never give people an opportunity, so when you give them one, they fail because they haven't had any experience. That's a whole nother teaching, so I'm not going to go there. All right? Yep, Olive Brown says, "We are God's representatives." That's right. Lady Brenda Clark Strickland says, "You don't take it off and on." That's absolutely right. Thank you. Olive Brown says, "This is wise teaching." Good stuff. All right. Good, good. So any other questions or comments so that I can answer them before we wrap up? We're at about 45 minutes, so I want to make sure that I get off of here in no less than an hour. All right. So again, I applaud my brother, Pastor John Gray, his wife, Aventer, because let me say this to you guys. Anyone that becomes the topic of conversation like they were and like others have been, we need to pray for them. It can be extremely strenuous on them. It's a lot of pressure to remain silent. I know that a lot of people, you know, they remain silent because they want to protect other people. But depending on the cost that's at stake, sometimes you have to speak up. And so that's why they spoke. I believe, again, I haven't talked to them about it, but I believe that's why they spoke up, because it was at the point where their church was being greatly affected. I'm sure, as leaders, we're like, okay, we're built for this. We could take the hits, the punches, even, a couple of swings. But when it becomes attacks, on our families, when our health is impacted, and I don't know that their health was impacted. I'm just saying that, but that can happen. Stress will do that. You have to figure out, or you have to know that they need our prayers. All right. So I don't care what they didn't do, what somebody said. Listen, everybody, we're human, and stress can take you out. Lying and trying to cover up a lie, and I'm not saying that's what they were doing, but I'm just using this as a general point, because we've all been there, where you weren't comfortable telling the truth, so you told a little white lie. My pastor preaches a sermon called Successful Sin. You tell a little lie, you get away with it, so you keep doing that bad thing, and then you tell another little lie, and then you get away with that, and you just keep going. And what could have been, just a little smack on the hand, it ends up costing you, years in prison, because you didn't deal with it when it was in its beginning stages. Like in the Bible, it went from being a serpent in Genesis to being a full blown out dragon in Revelations. So think about that, okay, you guys? So let's keep our leaders in our prayers. Those that are going through things, even those that have things they're ready to, they know that they need to tell, but they don't know how to tell. Let's ask God to give them the wisdom and the insight as to how to do that. Let's ask God to send them people that can help them with that process. And let's ask God to help mature the people that they've got to share that with, that they've got the hearts to receive it, that they're not going to be judgmental, that they're going to extend that same grace that they would want extended to them. All right. So know that when you hear these stories, remember what I said. There's some sensationalism in them, pretty much. So be careful before we start running off and telling stuff that we may not have all the sides of the story. Again, even with the Pastor John Gray situation, Larry Reid said for himself, what Pastor John said to me was, you had truth, you just didn't have all the truth. And so Pastor John Gray provided the other aspect of the truth. And that's fair, you guys. So know that even though what you've heard might be true, you might not have all aspects of the truth. So that's why we want to operate in grace. Hey, I'm not going to repeat that. I don't know all sides to the story. And so it's important to me, yes, that I just do what I do best when situations like this arise, and that is pray. Now, some of you may be like, oh, she's going spooky and spiritual. I'm a spiritual being. So I have to do what God has taught me to do. And that's to pray. All right. So good, good, good. My buddy Sean Isaiah James says, great work, Robin. I agree with all your points. That's right. Everett says the truth will, he said, set you free. The Bible, I like King James Version, says make you free. Absolutely. And then here we go. Pastor J. Patrick says, can you offer an example of when it's appropriate to have a spokesperson for the ministry and when it needs to come directly from the leadership? Wow, that is a great, great, great question. So I'll go back to my initial point of you have to have a team. I like to say a dream team, even as it relates to running the ministry. Most churches have trustees and board of advisors to make sure that the money is being handled correctly, that the doctrine is in sync with the Bible, right? But they need a dream team to help them with the marketing side of the ministry, the branding side of the ministry, the programmatic side of the ministry. And that dream team is, your pastor, your executive pastor, your event people, your marketing people, your media people, your social media people, and then your PR people. Now, you may have one person that wears 4 of those hats, and that's okay. But you need someone with those area of expertise so that your dream team can bring all of their expertise to the table. No man should have the assignment of, managing all of that. I like to say, with pastors, we trust you to hear from God to speak, right? I don't want to have to trust you to tell me how to market the ministry or what should be on social media today, or to remind us, are we, have we paid our church mutual bill, right? That's not what I want. So, and I should have said a finance person. That example made me think of a finance person. So, because a lot of ideas are great, but you have to make sure that they're in the budget. So, when a situation arises, you can bring it to that dream team and say, okay, how are we going to handle this? And then you let that PR rep say, well, from my experience, I think that we just need a statement across the pulpit. So, for instance, let's say that you have an event at your church, but it was a rental and something happened. And so people are saying that, XYZ church had this event and stuff went left. Nope. That is something that a representative from the team can make that statement. Listen, you guys, let's keep, XYZ in our prayers. Remember, always come from a place of support and grace. So, let's keep them in our prayers. They did use our facility for an event. We understand that something happened. We're not aware of exactly what happened, but it was a rental. And so, as we do with all rentals, We validated, whatever. And, that's the extent of our involvement. And that's it. Now, let's say that the church itself is being attacked. Again, the a key leader maybe is um, people think that they're embezzling money. It's funny. I read a story the other week, maybe even last month, but uh, the finance person had maybe over the course of 10 or 12 years had stolen $2 million. Unbelievable, right? Well, that's because in a lot of churches, the person that writes the checks, that pays the bills, they're also the person that counts and makes deposits. And so they could easily alter the financial report. So, there are lots of ways that people can, steal money if you don't have a system in place that's been vetted. So let's say that a person, it's been discovered that they have stolen, money from the church. Then it's time for you to get a PR person involved with that, because that's jail, right? To me, if you are working at my church and you steal $100,000, $50,000, I'm pressing charges. And so you have to seek a professional in making that statement, because you're going to be challenged by your leaders as to how that happened, as to how that was never caught. How could you not know? I'm going to tell you how that could happen. A lot of pastors don't deal with the day to day. A lot of pastors don't host staff meetings. Um, they don't attend them, or they're not involved in budget meetings. And so the only one that really knows the finances is that CFO or that controller. And so they can manipulate financial reports to reflect whatever they want them to. If you don't know QuickBooks, or you don't look at QuickBooks report, I told you all that I'm an AKA. And so as a part of our system, we have one person that receives money, but then we have another person that records the money, and then we have yet another person that writes the checks. So we have three different people that are involved with the management of our monies. And then, of course, they have to produce a report. And then all three entities can look at the report, and the person that received the money will know, well, I turned in, $5,000. Why does this report say that only 4,000 was turned in? And then they list who those checks went to. So the larger your church, I know that you may not be able to put your hands on it, but then you need someone that does. And then they provide those reports to you, so that you know what's coming in, what's going out, what vendors, and then, like, what are your processes? Do you require 3 bids? Anything over $100, you need 3 bids. Anything over $500, you need 3 bids. What is your credit card policy? I know churches where credit cards run amok, right? I also worked, I have a client that no one has credit card. So it just depends on how you handle your finances. All right. So that would be an example that when the law gets involved, or maybe even if someone gets hurt, let's say somebody gets attacked. I worked at a large church. We did a youth conference, and unfortunately, as young teenagers do, there was some inappropriate behavior that happened in a classroom, and a young girl says she was attacked. Well, we had to make a statement because, of course, we immediately informed their parents. We informed the law. You can't take those matters into your own hands. Anything could happen. So you want to make sure that you've practiced, you've done your due diligence, so that the ministry is not held accountable for something that, they could have prevented. All right. So Pastor Jay, I hope that helped you there. All right. Let's see here. All right, Lorraine Copeland Jackson asked, how do you think they should deal with members that aren't loyal? Should they be addressed if they know who they are? So, I didn't share this, but Larry Reid referenced that he made multiple references that the mole, his source, was a part of their team. Yikes. Yeah. And so that's what she's asking. How should they deal with members that aren't loyal? Wow. So let me just say this from my professional opinion. Um, the Bible says that we should know those who labor with us. All right. And so oftentimes in ministry, we're guilty of just letting anybody with a heartbeat serve. And I believe that it's important to make sure people are developed before you start giving them uh, leadership roles where they kind of govern, and I don't know if govern's the right word, so y'all don't attack me, but where they govern over other people. So we know that we are called as elders to help support the weight of our assignment, to alleviate some of that weight of their assignment. And so my pastor is trusting me to be responsible and to be accountable to those people that are under the ministries that he's assigned me to. So I am the overseer of singles at my church. Well, if I was cohabitating, I would resign from being the overseer of singles because I don't believe that the overseer of singles should be teaching other singles and then live in any kind of way. So I wouldn't I couldn't do that. All right. So it's the same thing. I believe that my bishop knows that I'm living, I'm a righteous lady. I'm living, I'm holy, and, I'm not perfect, but I'm doing, the best I can. You all know, that have hung out with me. I've got my parents here with me. I honor them. My days are going to be long. I'm a blessing to those that I can bless. And so he knows my heart. And so he knows that I'm loyal. I've demonstrated it. And so as such, he's elevated my responsibilities. And so that's my first thing. So make sure you know those that labor amongst you. Number two, I know sometimes ministries don't have a large pool of people to choose from. Well, then you may have to wear multiple hats. You want to make sure your financial people are bonded so that if there is a situation that you're covered. You want to make sure that in the youth area that they have gone through background checks. All areas, to be honest with you, all leaders should do background checks, but you want to make sure that you've done, you've done all you can to make sure that the people that you've got in assignment, that they are, responsible. They're not reckless with their authority. But back to her question, what do you do if they're not loyal? Well, I believe that it's, family meeting time because the information that was shared, and I don't know this for a fact, so let me just kind of say it this way. If the information that was shared with Larry Reid that was leaked to him was only privy to those that are in the inner circle, then it's time to have some conversations. Because though they weren't doing anything wrong, Relentless Church was not doing anything wrong. They, just like all churches, they had a plan in place to disseminate the information. Just like what I said earlier in this broadcast. You have to sit down with your dream team and come up with a strategy as to how to handle it, how to move forward with it, and then when you're going to communicate it and what you're going to communicate. That takes time. Well, unfortunately, someone leaked that information. And so that's why Larry Reid went live saying, hey, I've got this information that the church is ruined. And he began to talk about information that only, again, this is what I'm assuming, only that select group was privy to. Well, then now I have a problem. Because if just that inner circle was privy to that information, yeah, we gotta have some conversations. So I don't know, sometimes you guys people are disgruntled, um, and they do things from a place of hurt. And so that's got to be dealt with. I would probably have you know, I would, let me say this. Now, y'all may think this is far fetched, but I would probably have a counselor even come in and really talk to the team and see where everyone's heart is. There's a lot going on with a new ministry. They grew really, really fast. They inherited some people. There could be people that were part of the transition that, weren't happy to be a part of it. And so, they may be harboring some things. I don't know. But somewhere, it is, you know, there's an area that needs to be, some people need to get a little, look, where's my little cute magnifying glass, right? You need to get this magnifying glass out so you can start examining who's on your team so that you'll know, you know, how, what people are thinking, what they're feeling, you know, and don't do it from a threatening standpoint. I need to know if you're with me or not. No, that's not how you do that, right? But you walk them through, I want you to hear my heart. I thought that I had shared it with everyone, but I'm doing some one-on-one so I can just kind of, get to know you as a person and kind of see, what's going on with you, because there's a leak. And it's not just, a little tiny spring, it's a lake. Yes, because that information that was shared was very, high level. All right. So I hope that answers your question there. Da, 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 da. All right. Uh, Cedric says a whole internal affairs team activated. That is so funny. Of course, you would say that. It's ministry, and so we want to make sure again that we do things from a place of love. Sometimes people, turn on you and become, and Larry Reid used the term moles. But you know, it is important that you figure out who that is, why that is, and you have to clean house. A lot of times, pastors are reluctant to let people go, but sometimes you have to help people be who God created them to be, and that is by letting them go. Yes, so it is what it is. All right. Any other questions? Let me see what else y'all got. This is good, you guys. Let's see here. All right. Because we are right at, we're over an hour. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me just share this. I wanted to remind those of you that may not had a chance to get my new book. Of course, Wow Your Guests, Winning Hospitality Strategies to Change the Culture of Your Church. It's basically a customer service book for churches. Yes, it teaches ministries, all members of the ministries, not just the hospitality team, but it teaches the first impression teams. I list 9 of them, yes, that I believe are responsible for creating the first impression of your ministry. So relationships is what keeps visitors coming back and then eventually to becoming members, so that we then have people that we can disciple, right? And then they can help get out on the battlefield and make other disciples. So this book is one of what I like to say is a blueprint to help you do just that. So check it out. You, of course, can get it on my website, thewearagency.com, my brand new book, as well as other trainings that I've got. So anyway, just go to the website, check it all out. I thank you guys for hanging out with me again. Make sure you like the Wear Agency page here on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like the video, that you subscribe so that you get your notification that your girl is live. All right. Thank you guys so much, and God bless you.